Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something absolutely fascinating. We're bridging two incredibly profound frameworks to uncover a universal human truth. We're going to layer Carl Jung's analytical psychology right on top of Imam al-Ghazali's Islamic psycho-spiritual model. And you know what? It turns out that combining these two creates a surprisingly precise, actionable map for how we can understand, confront, and ultimately heal our deepest, darkest impulses. Here's our roadmap for today's journey. We'll hit the anatomy of the hidden self, the cost of hiding, spotting your dark side, the healing toolkit, the power of intention, and wrap it all up with gold in the dark.
Okay, let's start with a little thought experiment. I want you to imagine a newspaper headline right in front of you, but it's highlighting the absolute worst things about you. Seriously, picture it right now. What are those traits you are literally terrified for other people to read? Are you selfish, manipulative, maybe lazy or needy? The author and life coach Debbie Ford actually suggests writing down 5 of those traits. And look, I know that sounds super uncomfortable, but there's a reason for it. Those very things you're desperately trying to hide, they actually hold the key to your true enlightenment. We waste so much of our internal energy trying not to be these things, so identifying them is step 1.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the anatomy of the hidden self.
Carl Jung had this profound warning about the human mind. We usually think of our lives as just destiny, right? A series of random events. But Jung argued that when we pretend our dark side doesn't exist, we're actually handing it the steering wheel. It operates completely from the shadows, making choices for us, and we blindly just call it fate.
He called this hidden realm the shadow. Think about when you were a kid. The shadow was born the exact second society, or your parents, or your teachers told you certain parts of your personality were simply bad or unacceptable. Maybe you were told to stop crying or to quiet down. So to protect yourself, you shoved those traits deep into your unconscious mind. But they didn't just vanish.
And here is where the parallels across these traditions get really striking. Look at Imam al-Ghazali's inciting self. In Arabic, this is the al-nafs al-amara, representing our lower, instinctual passions and our ego. It perfectly mirrors Jung's concept of the shadow. On the flip side, Ghazali's tranquil self, which is the ultimate state of peace, represents Jung's ultimate goal of the integrated whole self. Both frameworks totally agree. We have a hidden lower nature that we absolutely have to confront to reach our true potential. Which brings us to Section 2, the cost of hiding. What actually happens when we try to bury the inciting self? Because here's the harsh truth. Buried traits always leak out. And the number one way they do this is through projection. This is when you see, and usually despise, in other people the exact traits you refuse to accept in yourself. Ever get incredibly triggered by someone showing off? Yeah, that might just be your own buried desire for attention bubbling to the surface. Debbie Ford shares this amazing story about a guy named Steven that perfectly illustrates this. When Steven was 5, he was scared of a pony ride and his dad called him a wimp. From that day on, Steven shoved that wimp shadow down and built up this super tough persona. He got a black belt in karate, lifted weights, and literally despised weakness in anyone else. But later, through doing shadow work, he realized his wimpiness was actually a massive gift. It gave him caution. In college, that exact cautious trait made him skip a heavy drinking party, which literally saved him from a terrible accident that killed his best friend. Crazy, right? So let's move to Section 3, spotting your dark side. How do we actually catch this darkness leaking out day to day? Well, al-Ghazali's model maps this out brilliantly. He teaches that every action starts as a faint prompting, a passing thought called a khatar. Good promptings come from sources like Allah, the angels, or your higher self. But the bad ones, like that sudden, totally random urge to backbite or manipulate someone, those come straight from the lower self or from shaitan. And you have to watch out because this escalates incredibly fast. If you don't catch a bad prompting, the literal second it pops up, it transforms. It shifts from a passing thought into a will or desire. If you entertain it even a little, it hardens into determination, and boom, it becomes a concrete objective. This whole chain reaction can happen faster than you can blink. Let's open up Section 4, the healing toolkit. How do we stop this cycle? Jung's shadow work gives us a practical, step-by-step psychological cure. First, you identify the trigger by spotting your projections. Second, accept it, gently, without judgment. Hey, we're all human. Third, trace it back to your childhood. Ask yourself, who first told you that trait was bad? Fourth, dialogue with it.
Use active imagination to sit quietly and ask that angry or fearful part of yourself what it's trying to protect you from. And finally, integrate. Take that raw energy and use it safely. Anger, for example, can be integrated into setting really healthy boundaries instead of just lashing out.
Which leads us right into Section 5, the power of intention. Here's where the Islamic psychospiritual mechanics completely supercharge Jung's integration phase. Imam al-Ghazali views the unconscious mind much like an iceberg. Look, we all love to think we're totally conscious, rational beings, right? But most of our choices are driven by hidden compulsions, past traumas, and external pressures buried way beneath the surface. To win back our freedom from these lower self-drives, we need deep self-observation and the active practice of intention. The early Muslims treated crafting an intention, or niyyah, as a strict science. A real, purifying intention is not just some fleeting thought. It starts deep down in the heart. Then it's articulated by the tongue to strengthen it, confirmed by the rational mind, and manifested by the physical body in action. And the key here, it has to flow through the entire action from start to finish, almost like a spirit giving life to a physical body. Think of crafting this kind of pure, continuous intention like dropping chlorine into a swimming pool. The pool being your unconscious mind. It sinks deep down below the surface, actively neutralizing the bacteria of bad promptings, social pressures, and those lower self-impulses. It literally purifies you from the inside out. And finally, Section 6, Gold in the Dark. By bringing these two incredible frameworks together, we completely redefine how we view our flaws. Carl Jung put it beautifully, the gold is in the dark. Reaching the tranquil self that Al-Ghazali talks about doesn't mean you have to be flawless. Not at all. It means you must be whole. It's about embracing everything, the positive and the negative, the holy and the rebellious, and using active imagination and pure intention to channel all of that messy human energy toward the good. So I want to leave you with a question as we wrap up this explainer. Think back to those 5 terrible traits you pictured at the beginning. Are you going to keep exhausting your internal resources trying to hide half of your own psyche? Or will you finally use the science of intention and shadow work to invite your dark side into the light and turn your darkness into gold?